Hello everyone, it's Matt here, and I has a box. And not just a box, I actually have two. But this is all you're seeing for the next couple of seconds, because I actually have to change the camera angle just because of the size of these boxes. And here is box one. And this isn't even the largest one, this is actually fairly small. I can actually just see from my hand how big this box is. And this is box one. Of the scan order of computer parts for Ryzen. So I actually have them in now. To give you a bit of a backstory with the order of the parts, because I may have covered it on the previous video, but I'll cover it again just for clarity. These parts were originally ordered back in February, and the original expected ship date or delivery date was the 1st or 2nd of February. That then changed to the 6th of February, then the 10th, then the 15th, and finally the 17th. And in actual fact, it was kind of a funny story because the date of this recording is the 15th. I think it's the 15th. Maybe my memory's going already. But anyway. The day I got an email saying the delay was actually going to be the 17th, in less than an hour, my order had changed from processing, I think it was at the time, to picked, and then in less than an hour it had changed from pending to shipped. In actual, I think it took like 45 minutes for it changed to be picked, and then another 10 minutes later it had gone to shipped. So I'm actually really glad I've actually got this in. So I still might be in with the chance of getting the 3D Mark Unknown Hardware Award or Achievement on Steam. And as usual, to open a box, I have my very trusty and slightly rusty knife. So obviously I'm going to open this from the outside in, and you're actually going to see me on camera, more than just my hands at least. I'm going to be really careful about this because this box contains how much pounds worth of goods? Well, let's see, it was about 500 for the processor, about 250 for the motherboard, about 80 for the RAM, I think, and about another $5 for the thermal paste for the heatsink. So this order was not cheap. By any stretch for the imagination. This is actually a really hard box to open fully. And everything I need. Some of the packing things, the scan included. So here we have it. It's a load of pillows. A load of pillows. Multiple pillows. Oh. The box was ever so big. And that's how much was actually in there. They've actually not put any padding, or very minimalistic padding, at the bottom, and the rest of it was essentially just because they couldn't find a box thin enough to actually cope with all this. So, the motherboard of all motherboards. It's the most expensive motherboard I've bought to date, and it is a Crosshair 6 Hero. And if I open this box up, you can actually see the motherboard itself. And the reason I've gone for the ROG motherboard over the Prime motherboard I originally ordered was slightly better audio quality from the sounds of it, and in addition to that there were certain benefits of going for this board that weren't available on the Prime board from the looks of it. So I'm really going to enjoy putting this computer together, especially considering this alone was £250 just for this motherboard. I'm holding in my hands £250 worth of goods. That's kind of worrying, considering I've paid less for that than for actual 8-core processors. But of course, a computer would not be a computer without a damaged box of a CPU. And for those of you watching, this is actually a Ryzen CPU with a mostly empty box. So this is a 1800X. So the CPU itself looks to be fine. I'll just open the box up. So yeah, that is the entirety of the CPU. That is all of what that box is actually for. And this actually has quite a lot of damaged packaging, so I'm just going to open this up to make sure everything's alright. It looks to be. Installation instructions and the CPU itself. And yes, that actually does look fine. Insert the wiping sweat, wiping brow sweat meme here. So yes, this is the AMD Ryzen 7 1800X CPU in the flesh, along with the instruction manual. This is the certificate of authenticity and also the instruction things. So here we go. Service. So let's have a quick unfolding. It's just like the map on holiday. So just a quick check. So this is actually for AM3s and AM4s. So they've actually redone the AM3 instructions to include bits for the AM4 one, which is really interesting. So that might be worth a read later off camera. So let's put everything back together now. So yeah, I'm not exactly happy that the box has been damaged, either in shipping or in transit. So I will be reporting that to Scan. And obviously everything is in this video. So there is actual evidence of me opening the box live on camera without any sort of cheating, I want to say. So I haven't opened it before and purposely damaged it, because I've seen me opening the tape. So I'll actually put that the wrong way around. I'll never look at myself now. There we go. So I put that round the right way. Yeah. And that goes in, and then that's folds that flat. So yeah, that would be the space for a cooler, I'd imagine. Oh, so that is £750 worth of equipment right there. Anyway, I'm sure it was more than that. Oh, I forget. I just remember the figure of being 1,100 just for this order. So the final two bits are bits that are very important for any decent enthusiast level computer build. We have some RAM, and this is two 8 gig sticks of RAM. So you can see the two individual sticks there, and these are made by Corsair, and these are Vengeance LPX. These are the non-RGB version, because you can get this model in both an RGB and non-RGB versions. This is the non-RGB version. As RGB, if I'm going to use the RGB lighting, it's going to be extremely minimal in my build. So we have these two 8 gig kits to give a total of 16 gig of actual RAM capacity. And from what I've read online, from the issues some people have been having with the RAM speeds and the RAM configurations, 2 gig sticks of RAM seems to be better than 4, and obviously that would make sense as the motherboard is actually set for dual channel RAM, so 226 theoretically should be better than 4 anyway. So that gives the same capacity as my current system, but only using 226 instead of the 4. And we also have a case at 455 thermal paste, which is used for when you put the CPU in. You put a reasonable amount on, and then you can put the heatsink on for that. So that, in addition to that M.2 card, this SanDisk Z410 480GB SSD, and this Noctua NM-AM4 mounting kit comprise of about half of the expense of the build, if not slightly more. Well, actually, it is a lot more than that, because the rest of the build is just the case and the PSU, the fan, and the graphics card. So this is actually about half to 2/3 of the entire cost of my new computer, just in this picture alone. And let's face it, it's tiny in comparison to my case, for example, from my old computer, which costs at least 100. And in actual fact, aside from the CPU, the case was actually my most. No, I think the power supply might have been just over it, but my case was the most expensive component in my old build, and that was £100. That was in the single Galaxy. If I'd bought the RAM in one go, that would have pushed over the 100, but that was 2 separate kits. That wasn't 100. So to put it in perspective, £100 bought me the entire case before. It's just, in actual fact, it hasn't even bought me this. I think it's been enough to buy me these, and that's it. So in terms of actual computing, the cost of this build has essentially been 2 of my former builds, but this computer that I'm going to be building is actually going to be a computer that sort of knocks all my previous builds out the water, even combined in terms of actual processing power and everything else. And the reason why I've put so much money into this build is actually because this is, I wouldn't say the penultimate computer build, but until we actually see the next sort of leap in terms of hardware requirements, processing capacity, or just general speed in terms of data flow, and the requirements of that in, say, games or applications which I'm going to be using, this build should really be the final build I should need until we get, say, to domestic level quantum computing, or something along those lines, where the change is that great that not having it is actually an actual scalable effect. Because let's face it, my ep3 build runs Battlefield 1 fine, it runs Overwatch fine, and you know, there's effectively no actual genuine reason for me to actually update my build. But having said that, it is starting to show its age. Instead of being sort of like the recommended level for some games, is now actually just the minimum for some of the characteristics of some games. So it is starting to show its age, it is starting to show its limit, and that is part of the reason why I've decided to upgrade now. And with the arrival of Ryzen, this is actually a perfect opportunity for me to actually upgrade for a computer that I feel personally should be the last one I'll need for maybe the next 2 to 3 years, pending anything that's in the pipeline that will come out that will really sort of knock this sort of like 8-core 16-thread CPU in the dust, essentially, because it's going to be that much better. But enough of me babbling, because this is only some of what the computer is. And a computer is, you could say this, but as a visitor, to somebody who is actually going to see me, they won't see any of this unless they actually look hard into the case, because the case itself is actually the main part you would look in when you look at a computer if you're visiting somebody. So for that, there's going to be another camera change, because the box that I'm going to show you is actually for the new case. So back in a sec. I told you it was a big case, and here is the Core X71 thermal take computer case. And in actual fact, I'll even move my phone further back just so you can see this, because this case is absolutely huge. I'll just pan the camera back around there. So here I am. You can actually see me in shot, and this is actually the case. This is actually extremely heavy. I actually had trouble dragging this upstairs to where my bedroom is, and it is an absolute beast of a case, if I may say so myself. And when I sell my old computer minus some bits is actually just paying just for this case. So this case is free, kind of. But this case is actually extremely valuable, and that's the outside shot, as you can see. But the reason why I've gone for this case is because this case is good for both air cooling and actual water cooling, because I've actually seen photos of this being water cooled. So that's another reason for buying this case. It's a very modular case. So for those of you that might be getting into PC building that are watching this, you will see modular banded around quite a lot about PSUs, but maybe not with cases. And the reason for that is that this case you can actually customise it to quite a high degree, because essentially you can change quite a lot about the actual computer itself. For example, this computer case is actually two sections. So you have the main section, which has the CPU, motherboard, RAM, and a lot of the actual main components in it. And then you have a section below that, which is really for cooling your the PSU, and some of the other aspects. And with this thermal take Core X71 case, it's really useful because the bottom, they've set it so that not only can you have your cooling in there if you want to, so if you don't want your cooling at the top because it's maybe too big, or you need that extra bit of quietness at the tops, because you might, say for example, might be recording something, and you can actually mount it in this bottom section here. And in addition to that, you can actually use your bottom section to mount drives in, because that actually provides you with vertical braces where you can mount drives to, and you can actually make your drives in this bottom section and then have the cables fed upwards through these rubberized holes. So you don't even have to have your drive bays in the top half. And that's something else I want to mention with this case, because all the drive bays are actually removable. So when I talk about drive bays, I don't just mean for optical drives or say floppy drives or for hard drives. I actually mean every sort of drive that a normal case would have, because this case has separate sections for hard drives, for optical drives, and etc., which would actually fit in this top half. You can actually take those out if you don't want them, to get that bit of extra room, which might be worthwhile if you're considering using liquid cooling or water cooling, because you can then actually mount your pump and reservoir there, so that you actually gain a bit more room in your case. So if you're, for example, are using a closed, not exactly a closed loop, but an open loop where it's where it's a water cooling system you build yourself, you might actually find that that extra space to put those components in while you're doing the rest of the build might actually be useful to you. If you're only using this for a few games, or you've got SSDs and you can actually afford high capacity SSDs or high capacity hard drives, and you're mounting them in the bottom section, you can actually use the top section for the reservoir and the pump and etc. for your CPU and your GPU, and not actually be impacted in terms of what you can actually do with the computer, because you can have that ability to put your drives in the bottom section of this case. And in addition to that, this case also comes with, is extremely modular in terms of the cable management, the ability to put water cooling in, because you can actually have water cooling either mounted to the top, mounted to the bottom, etc, etc. There's even a back plate you can fit to where if you're mounting your power supply at the top, you can actually put a plate on that which has again a rubberized hole cover, so you can actually put your water pipes into there to feed down into the bottom section where you might have your cooler. So you can actually do that to again make more room. So if you don't have enough capacity or space to put the pipes down through these rubberized grips, say because you're using them for the data or power, you can actually put them out the back of the case and actually come back in, just to give you that extra bit of room. So anyway, that's the latest update with all the components. If I do have enough time, I'll actually be putting this build together on the weekend. So Saturday, I'll actually be doing recording of me actually putting this build together. So taking everything out, starting to assemble everything, or certainly assembling parts of the case. And then I'll do other videos related to actually salvaging components from my old system and putting them into my new one. Especially to do with the things such as the Noctua heatsink, because obviously that's an aftermarket style of cooler. So I'm going to have to actually take off bits from the motherboard to put the new mounting brackets on. We've got installing the OS, and then a few other bits and pieces about tidying up and configuration and everything else. So yeah, I'm really glad I've got the bits in now, and I will be able to actually get on with my Ryzen build, and I can actually do some benchmarking and everything else, possibly even by Monday of next week. So I'm Matt, and I'll see you in the next video.